French Cafe is really one of those restaurants that is a benchmark in fine dining in New Zealand. Restaurants look to the French Cafe and strive to be like it.
My final dish is basically going to be chocolate mousse. And some of the key elements about making this a successful dish is firstly realising that chocolate melts at body temperature, so you don't want to serve it too cold, and this will give you a much nicer sensation on the tongue. Also, using the best quality chocolate you can, I use 70% cocoa, will give you a much cleaner chocolate flavour. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make some chocolate mousse, and we're going to add some malt powder and some hazelnuts and some candied mandarins and some freeze-dried mandarins and some chocolate sorbet and some dehydrated chocolate and some caramel. Did I miss anything, Bane? And I know it sounds a lot, but what it is it's all about layering flavours, layering some textures and making food exciting on the palate. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to make a custard. So in here I've got some cream and milk. We're going to melt some chocolate, and we're just going to whisk our yolks and sugar together. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to put this into a cream canister and charge it with some nitros. But which is one of these, and these things are great because what they do is they give you great aeration, and they're quite cool to play with. But if you don't have one of these, and they're quite cheap, if you don't have one of these, then don't put the cream in to make the custard. Only use the milk, and then make the custard with your milk. Add your chocolate, let that sort of go cold. Whip your cream, and then fold your cream into your chocolate custard, and that'll give you pretty much the same result. So that's coming up to temperature. You can whisk that on. And once again, we'll put that back onto the heat, and we'll just thicken this slightly. I'm not going to let this go too cold. If you have too much of a different temperature contrast between the chocolate and the custard, then it will just seize up straight away. I'll just mix this chocolate up to melt this chocolate down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, if you can just hold that for a second, cheers. I'm just going to add the custard to the chocolate. Whenever you're doing anything with chocolate, making mousse or custards and stuff like that, it just takes a while for the chocolate to get that lovely gloss. So you just want to keep on stirring, let all that fat come through. Give Bane that. And I'm going to put this in the fridge. Just going to let that cool down slightly, otherwise it won't have enough time to set up when we put it in here. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to make some chocolate soil. So what I've got is I've got some almonds, I've got a little bit of flour, I've got some sugar, I've got a little bit of salt, and salt's great with chocolate, it just makes it, gives it a bit of lift. I've got some cocoa powder, we've got some butter. Mix that right there, and just use the tips of your fingers, just like you were making a little crumble topping. So it's up to you. If you want it nice and fine, just rub it through your hands. But if you want it a little bit more sort of rustic and a little bit more chunky, then you can sort of break it up a bit. I prefer it just a little bit finer. Great little tips. I mean, they're so easy to do, but they give you a real sort of restaurant effect. So what we're going to do is we'll probably just bake that off for about 20 minutes at about 160. I'll pour it straight onto a baking tray. Bane, you put that in the oven, please. So what we're going to do next is our mandarins. And basically I'm just going to make a little sugar syrup. I think this is just equal quantities of sugar and water. And so we've got some fresh mandarins. We're just going to break them up. Just going to add the mandarins. Just going to coat the mandarins in the warm syrup, and to be honest, you know, that's going to be enough to break those down. So just take those off, let them go cold. That'll be great. Here are those. Okay, so next I'm going to make the caramel sauce, and what we're going to do is we're just going to let that melt nicely. Once the caramel is taken, then we're going to add some butter. Let's get a pot on. We'll make our chocolate sorbet. So our chocolate mousse is probably cool enough to work with now. And in the meantime, I'm going to make some chocolate sorbet. And making chocolate sorbet is very easy. We're going to bring some milk, some cream, and some sugar, and a little bit of glucose. And the reason why we use glucose, it's not going to freeze solid, and that will give us a nice little scoop. So the milk and the sugars have come up to the boil, and all we're going to do is we're just going to add some chocolate. You want to melt the chocolate. You want to get a nice shine on the chocolate milk. And if you don't have a sorbet machine at home, like I said, I think the best way you can do this is really just put into a bowl and just keep giving it a stir every 10 or 15 minutes, and just keep breaking the ice crystals up as they form, and you'll have a nice texture. So our sorbet's ready. So for the last little bit of garnish we're going to do, we're going to make some dehydrated chocolate. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a small meringue. As soon as your whites are up, just want to add your sugar, and then just add an egg yolk. And we're just going to add a little bit of chocolate. Just make sure your chocolate's all fully incorporated into your meringue. And all we're going to do is we're just going to put this onto a silpat mat. And you can finish that off. We've just set this oven at 65, so we can pop it in there. Okay, so we're ready to put our dish together now. That's all right, I'll use this one if there's not one. That's fine. And we're just going to put a little bit of caramel, and then we've got our chocolate soil, a little bit over the mousse, just gently. And then we've got a little bit of dark chocolate shavings, so just a little bit of that. A little bit of malt powder, a little bit of freeze-dried mandarin, a little bit of hazelnut. You don't need much of anything. You just need a little bit just to excite the palate. We'll put fresh mandarins and an ice cream scoop. It's all good. And there we have our chocolate dessert.